Forgotten this Christmas, I hid in my cabin. A week later, my family revealed their amazing love. Emma Hawkins stared out the frost-covered cabin window, feeling the weight of solitude settling over her like a thick blanket of snow. It was Christmas Eve, and her family had chosen to spend the holiday with her sister, as they had for the last several years. She felt like a ghost haunting a party she wasn't invited to. A forgotten piece of a love story that seemed to have shifted without her. Lately, the world felt like a desolate canvas, an echo of her own heart as she grappled with job loss and mounting medical bills from her ex-husband's illness. Each day drained her spirit a little more, leaving her with art supplies, but no inspiration. Just the choices she felt forced upon her. Pacing the cabin's small space, Emma caught a glimpse of her easel standing forlornly in the corner. Her heart sank. She wanted to create something breathtaking, yet couldn't shake the heavy hand of self-doubt that grasped her. Was she still an artist? The thought gnawed at her. What if her work was as expired as her dreams of being a recognized painter? The whispers of her family's absence echoed louder than the swirling snow outside. The unresolved doubts felt like an anchor in her chest. How could she be a good mother to Maddie when everything felt so unstable? Would her children ever come to her for comfort? Or would they think of her as the person who couldn't hold her own life together? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Christmas Day wore on, the silence around Emma deepened, thickening the air. She picked up the brush, hesitated, and put it down again. She felt so utterly alone, wondering if her family knew how deeply their choices affected her. In the back of her mind lingered the fear that her art was an embarrassment to their idea of success. A mere hobby, not worthy of time or care. Emotions tightened in her chest like a steel band. She fought against the undeniable pangs of sorrow and anger. How could they abandon her when she needed them most? The sorrow settled into a toxic brew of regret and yearning. Wandering through the small attic of her childhood cabin, Emma stumbled upon an attic full of her grandmother's long-forgotten paintings. Vibrant colors burst forth from the dust as she brushed her fingers over the canvases. Each piece resonated with a story. The strokes exuded passion, and the layers of paint bore the weight of love for the craft. Her grandmother's legacy captivated Emma, reminding her of a time when she dreamed, when art was not just an escape, but a lifeline. Yet contradiction crashed along her thoughts. Could she connect to this artistry when she felt so disconnected from her own family? The ache of abandonment stung, and despite the inspiration boiling within her, self-doubt threatened to overwhelm her spirit. Just before the first rays of light hit the cabin's window, she stood illuminated by the dawn, ready to confront the truth. As a flurry of emotions surged within her, she realized that her family wasn't just absent. They were battling their own demons, the ones she had misunderstood. But even this realization only intensified her anguish, as she wrestled with the fact that their journeys would lead them to her door. But would they really see her? Would her newfound pursuit of painting matter? The winds of uncertainty howled outside the cabin, the quiet revealing a storm of emotional battles brewing, leaving the question hanging heavy in the air. Could Emma finally embrace the love surrounding her? Or would she remain shrouded, forever unresolved? Emma woke the next morning with an urgency that startled her. The dawn was gray, casting a muted light across the cabin. But for the first time in days, Emma felt a spark igniting within her. The remnants of self-doubt she had clutched at so tightly began to feel lighter as her instincts urged her towards something profound. Fueled by an impulse she couldn't quite articulate, she rushed to her grandmother's attic. The room that had seemed so stagnant suddenly felt alive with possibility. Emma's fingers met the rough textures of the canvases, finding connection amidst the dust. Each artwork seemed to whisper encouragement, a reminder that creation was not merely for someone else's approval. As she examined the paintings, a thought struck her fiercely. Her grandmother hadn't painted to impress, she had painted to express. That was the essence of artistry, to capture moments, feelings, and stories. Emma wanted her journey with paint to be a dialogue between herself and the world, not a question of validation. With this new resolution, she grabbed her backpack, filling it with art supplies, and made a bold decision. She needed to escape the confines of her cabin and find fresh inspiration in the beauty surrounding her. Slipping into her coat, Emma stepped outside into the biting winter air. The snow crunched beneath her boots, and the forest stood against the pale sky, branches laden with sparkling frost. The world felt vast and untamed, and for the first time in weeks, Emma felt a flicker of excitement. What would she find out there? It was time to discover her voice through brush and canvas in a way she had long forgotten. At a nearby clearing, she set up her easel, dedicating herself to capturing the panoramic view. The scene felt daunting. The beauty was almost too delicate to translate onto canvas. For a moment, the familiar grip of terror gripped her, the fear that she would fail to do justice to the wild splendor before her. But she inhaled deeply, reminding herself that this process was about rediscovery, not perfection. Dipping her brush into paint, she felt a rush as colors danced on the canvas, each stroke a testament to her resolve. With every curve and flourish, pieces of her past floated back, memories of her grandmother guiding her, fiercely intact. Emma felt exhilaration in the process, not bound by the metrics of success, but driven instead by the sheer joy of creating anew. As her painting took form, a sensation of clarity broke through the fog of doubt. She realized that simply showing up, bringing her best self to the canvas, was a victory in itself. This wasn't about seeking validation from family or an art dealer. It was about reclaiming her narrative, a reminder that she could connect with others through her work, but that it also served to connect her to herself. A glance back at the cabin reminded her of the heaviness she had carried alone. She didn't just want to reconnect with her family. She wanted them to see her journey, to understand that she could exist outside the shadows of their opinions. Just when the sun broke free from the clouds, an unexpected sound interrupted her trance. Footsteps approached, crunching through the snow. Emma turned, heart racing, unsure whether to hope it was someone from her family or dread the confrontation that would surely arise. As she stood there, the brush still in her hand, she faced the figures emerging from the trees. It was her sister and brother, expressions chiseled with determination, yet barely concealing vulnerability. "Emma, we need to talk," her sister began, stepping forward cautiously. Standing at the precipice of confrontation, a question fluttered in Emma's mind. Would this be an invitation to reconnect, or yet another wound to mend? Emma's heart raced, a tempest of anxiety mingling with anticipation. The backdrop of the snowy clearing felt eerily still, the trees silently observing this looming confrontation. She took a deep breath, trying to anchor herself as her brother exchanged furtive glances with their sister, who seemed to weigh every word. "Can't it wait?" Emma finally managed to say, her voice steadier than she felt. The paintbrush felt like a lifeline in her hand, a tool that had begun to build a bridge back to herself, and she hesitated to step back into a reality she was still grappling with. "No," said her brother firmly, pushing forward as if he had called on every ounce of courage in him. "We've been talking about you, Emma. About us. We need to sort things out." Emma's defensiveness flared. "Sort what out? The last few interactions we've had have felt more like judgments than conversations," she replied, the defensive tone creeping back into her voice. "Why should I believe this will be any different?" A flicker of hurt crossed her sister's face, but it quickly transformed into resolve. Because we care, she said, her tone softening. We've seen you struggle, Emma, and we're tired of pretending everything's okay. We want to understand what's going on with you. We want you to be part of this family again. Really part of it. As Emma processed her sister's plea, the cacophony of emotions roiling within her bubbled to the surface. Anger, confusion, but most of all, a deep-seated yearning for connection clawed at her spirit. Was she ready to confront the past? The feeling of isolation, the very essence of her retreat into the cabin, had shaped her identity in the past weeks. I felt invisible, she finally admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Every time I tried to express my thoughts or share my art, it was like I was met with doubt instead of encouragement. I just wanted space to breathe, and instead, I felt suffocated. But you're not alone. Her brother's tone was earnest, almost desperate. We want to be there for you, but how can we help if you don't let us in? It only leaves us guessing, and that's been painful for all of us. Emma studied their expressions, realizing the shadows of misunderstanding that loomed between them. Vulnerable yet strangely empowered, she began to see this meeting as an opportunity, rather than an ambush. I've been afraid of disappointing you. Disappointed in myself, really. I thought if I created something amazing you would finally see me, finally understand me. Her sister stepped closer, bridging the distance. We don't need perfect art or masterpieces, Emma. We want the real you. Tell us what you need. We can find a way to face this together. For the first time, doubts began to untangle from the fog in her mind. Emma felt the stirrings of a plan formulating. Could she show them her art? Not just the finished pieces, but her struggles, her doubts, her journey. In this moment, standing in front of her siblings, she suddenly recognized that either silence or confrontation could lead her to liberate herself from the expectations she had ensnared herself in. Perhaps I need to expose the rawness of my process to you, she suggested, curiosity pervading her voice. Let us help you, her brother urged. We want to understand what you're creating and who you are now. We're willing to take that step with you. Emma paused, contemplating the possibilities swelling inside her. A fresh start on the canvas of her life, merging personal art with family. Could this be the breakthrough she needed? As the air around them thickened with unspoken fears and the promise of reconciliation, she felt herself teetering on a new edge. The thought of sharing her world struck her both thrillingly liberating and terrifyingly vulnerable. Then let's start now, Emma said, surprising herself with her resolve as she motioned toward her easel. In that very moment, she felt the weight of uncertainty lift, replaced by an exhilarating sense of embarking on a new, shared journey full of challenges. Behind them, shadows stretched long across the snowy ground as the sun began to set. But before Emma knew it, a new layer of complexity emerged. What they thought they knew of her was only the beginning. Just as they began to explore her artwork together, the shadows from the trees shifted ominously, and Emma felt a new presence approaching, someone she had deliberately kept at arm's length all too often. The looming reality of an uninvited audience amplified the tension. Would this new arrival disrupt their fragile moment of communication, or would it unveil deeper truths still awaiting discovery? The figure stepped into the clearing, a stark silhouette against the fading twilight. Emma's heart stuttered. A rush of conflicting emotions cascaded through her, twisting her stomach into knots. It was Mark, her estranged father, the very person she sought to shield herself from. He paused, taken aback by the sight of his children gathered in that snowbound embrace, and their momentary unity felt poised on the edge of a blade. Emma's breath quickened as she stole a glance at her siblings, their faces reflecting a bewildered blend of hope and apprehension. "Why are you here?" she blurted, instinctively stepping in front of her brother and sister. The familial bond she had just begun to reclaim felt threatened, her newfound courage derailing. The years of hurt surged to the forefront, and she wrestled with the impulse to retreat once more, to push the past further from reach. "Emma," Mark said, his voice softer than she remembered, tinged with a hint of struggle. "I know I haven't been the father you needed, but I want to change that. I want to talk." In that moment, she questioned her resolve. Was she prepared to confront him, to confront the remnants of her fractured family? Mark's presence was a tangible reminder of the expectations that once suffocated her, the doubts that clawed at every part of her creative process. Yet here she stood before him, still holding her paintbrush, ready to navigate this new terrain. "Talk?" she echoed, her tone a mix of disbelief and challenge. "What could you possibly say that would change anything?" Each word was laced with the weight of years spent in silence, years where her art had been a mirror reflecting their fractures back at her. "Just listen," he implored, desperation woven through his plea. "Let me hear you. Let me understand where we went wrong." His earnestness, an invitation that felt both terrifying and oddly generous, lingered in the wintry air. Emma shifted her weight, torn between a desire for understanding and the instinct to shield her vulnerabilities. Yet part of her, the part that sought validation and connection, began to surface. This encounter with her father, like revealing her artwork, was another layer of unveiling. "Okay," she said, needing to map her thoughts as they twisted together like brushstrokes on a canvas. "But you need to promise to hear me too. Not just the surface, but everything beneath it. My art, my struggles, my needs." Mark nodded, the sincerity in his eyes igniting something fragile within her. A mix of fear and relief flooded Emma, igniting the realization that confronting him might unravel her tightly wound apprehensions. This could be an opening, not only for her father but also for herself. A chance to reassess how these tangled relationships defined her artwork and worldview. As Mark stepped closer, Emma felt an unexpected warmth. The ache of years spent in silence was still present, yet here was an opportunity to break through barriers, to reduce the distance that once felt insurmountable. Her siblings exchanged glances, their mutual support an undercurrent that bolstered her resolve. "Let's use this moment," her brother whispered, affirming her choice. "You've already started showing us who you are, and now you can bring him in too." Emma turned back to her easel, the cold wood now warmed by her siblings' presence, her father's willingness, and her own slowly blossoming courage. She took her brush and began to paint, stroking colors across the canvas, bare and honest, exposing the rawness of her journey. As the shapes and hues emerged, abstract yet deeply personal, Emma felt fragmented pieces of herself falling into place. This was not just an art piece. It was a dialogue, a chance to embody her truth, even within this complex reunion. Could this act of creation also facilitate healing? But a flicker of doubt gnawed at her as Mark stepped into the undefined space between them. What if his response splattered her vibrant intentions with the dull hues of disappointment? Would he truly see the beauty in her vulnerability? Or would he reject the very essence she fought to reclaim? The chilling clarity of the moment pressed heavily upon her, the sun sinking lower and lower. The shadows deepened around them, reflecting the shadows still present in her heart. Could this unveiling lead to a true reconnection? Or would it unearth more wounds than they could navigate? With the final stroke of her brush, Emma hesitated, waiting for both her father's reaction and the dawning realization of what this was truly leading to. In that very instant, she sensed that this moment was a stage for more than just dialogue. It was an intersection of paths both fraught with tension and rich with the promise of renewal. What awaited her was an exploration not just of art, but of the tangled narrative of family itself. As the air crackled with anticipation, Emma felt her resolve strengthen. The impending revelation could redefine everything, But would the risk of opening her heart yield the reconciliation they so desperately needed? The moment hung suspended, the cold air thick with tension, as Emma watched her father's eyes scan the colors she laid before him. Each brushstroke held fragments of her soul, yet the way he examined the canvas felt more like a dissection than an appreciation. She bit her lip, longing for him to grasp the depth of what she'd created, but anxious about the scrutiny. For years, her artwork had served as a shield, guarding her from emotional vulnerability. And now she was thrust into the intensity of a personal reveal. Mark inhaled sharply, an expression crossing his face that Emma couldn't quite decipher. Was it realization, sorrow, or simply the weight of regret? His silence was deafening, a void that amplified her unease. Did he realize how much this moment mattered, not just to her, but to the fragile tapestry of their family? Emma! He finally broke the stillness, his voice quaking slightly. This is extraordinary. It's like you've captured everything I failed to see. And just like that, the fragility of joy she had just begun to build threatened to collapse under the enormity of connection. She felt the urge to retreat, to hide her heart behind another layer of paint. But before she could respond, her brother stepped forward, his gaze shifting from their father to the evolving artwork. "What she's shown here isn't just about you, Dad," he said, his tone strengthening as if to underline his sister's courage. "It's about our family, what we've been through, and how she's trying to show you the world through her eyes." Emma's heart raced. How could her brother articulate what she struggled to express herself? Would Mark feel overwhelmed, suffocated by the realization of how far the distance between them had grown? "See?" Emma interjected, trying to regain her footing. "I needed to create this to show you what was missing. What you were missing. It's not just colors and shapes. It's pain, hope, love. Everything we've lost and everything we could be." Mark's face twisted slightly, the impact of her words rippling through him. It wasn't easy for either of them. Their shared history was tangled in a mix of love and resentment. Suddenly she felt a flicker of fear creeping in again. What if he dismissed her creation as mere rebellion? What if he didn't know how to engage with the emotions she had poured onto the canvas? "Are you willing to hear me, as I hear you?" She pressed, her voice steadying, trying to ground herself in the moment. He nodded slowly, a gesture that seemed to swell with weight and import. She sensed that this could be the beginning of dissolving years of silence. As the darkness of twilight deepened, it seemed to usher in an openness, a willingness to tackle the complexities of their relationship. She hadn't realized just how much she carried, the expectations, dreams, and pain, until she let them anchor down onto canvas. "I don't want you to be just a ghost in my life anymore," she continued, emboldened by her brother's support. "We can be more. But it starts with understanding, doesn't it?" "You're right," Mark replied, his voice softer now, almost reverent. "I need to acknowledge my failings, and I want to. More than anything, I want to listen." Yet the moment was interrupted as a sudden wind gusted through the clearing, its chill biting and disorienting. It felt almost like a sign, but this time, Emma refused to let it scatter her resolve. The wind brought with it a renewed energy, an urgency, an opportunity to break free of the past. As she stepped back from the easel to find her siblings flanking her, a pulse of unity resonated among them. The path before them shifted, away from old resentments toward the possibility of healing and connection. For the first time, Emma felt the weight of her choices shift from burden to a sense of purpose. But just as clarity began to settle in, she remembered the scars they bore, afraid that the conversation would tread into treacherous waters. Would the walls they had built around their hearts remain unshakable? "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice carrying the weight of her internal trepidation as she gazed at Mark. It won't be easy. It's going to hurt and reveal even more than we expect. He met her eyes, the earnestness blossoming into something more profound. I'm ready. And in that moment, as darkness enveloped the clearing, Emma felt their next steps could either create a masterpiece born from long-ignored pain, or lead to a chaos of unfiltered emotions. The question lingered heavy in the air. Could they navigate through the murky waters of their past without drowning in regret? As she turned back to the half-finished canvas, awaiting both their truths and her own resolution, a deeper understanding settled into her mind. This wasn't just an artistic journey, but a visceral exploration of her identity, shaped by each layer they dared to unpack. With the night closing in, she prepared herself for the conversation that was about to erupt, the air thick with unspoken promises and revelations that could redefine everything they were. The initial moment of vulnerability transformed into a raw awakening. Emma stood before her father, her hands trembling slightly as they awaited the next words to precipitate change. The darkness felt electric, infused with the possibility of both connection and confrontation. Her heart pounded like a drum in her chest, an echo of the pent-up emotions she had silently cradled for years. "I've been waiting for you to see me," she said, her words rippling with more emotion than she had anticipated. Each syllable carried the weight of her past, echoing the tension that had stretched unbroken between them. "I've put everything into this painting because it represents the essence of our struggles. Each color signifies a wound, a memory, and a dream that either went unfulfilled or was swallowed by fear." Mark's expression shifted, his eyes narrowing as he processed her words. Emma felt exposed, but she leaned into that discomfort, recognizing that it was necessary for the breakthrough she craved. This wasn't just a relationship that hung in the balance. It was her identity as an artist, a daughter, and a sister. "Why did you wait to show me this?" Mark asked quietly, his voice a mixture of concern and confusion. "Because I didn't think you'd care," she admitted, the honesty weighing heavy on both of them. It felt safer to hide in the shadows. But now I realized that by doing so, I was dimming the light of our connection. I wanted to be seen, not just as your daughter, but as a person with my own pain and voice. The dialogue began to flow like paint on a canvas, raw, unrefined yet powerful. She caught her brother's glance of solidarity, emboldening her further. "I've expressed my hurt through art, and kept it hidden under layers. But I can't do that anymore. I want to bridge this gap between us. I want you both to feel what I feel, to understand what you mean to me, even if it hurts. You've always been afraid to show us the depths of your feelings," Mark replied, a hint of pain lacing his voice. "But the problem is, I haven't known how to reach you either. I've been trapped in my own fears, thinking that time could heal us without real effort. This is the first step I think I've truly seen of you." The exchange ignited something within Emma. She realized this moment was a catalyst, a turning point not just for herself or Mark, but for their family. The past had left scars, but as they laid bare their emotions, the potential to heal began to emerge. Gathering her courage, she initiated a gentle confrontation. "What has held you back, Dad?" The question hung in the air, and Emma prepared for a wave of vulnerability that might shatter all previous barriers. Mark's eyes darkened, but then he steadied himself, his expression softening as he searched for the right words. "Shame, probably. I've always thought I was letting you down, not being the father you needed. I buried that shame, thinking it would protect you." Emma felt an ache in her chest but pressed on. "But instead, it pushed us all apart. We can't be afraid of confronting the truth anymore. It's time we work through this, together." Mark swallowed hard, his eyes glimmering with unshed tears. Emma felt the veil of silence around them start to lift. She looked over at her brother, who nodded in quiet agreement, emboldened by Emma's insistence on truthfulness. "I want to talk through our past, our losses, and the dreams we have left," she urged, her voice steady. "Can you both promise me that?" With uncertain yet hopeful murmurs, her family confirmed their willingness to confront what had been left untouched for too long. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of their decision reflect on her canvas. Overlapping colors represented a spectrum of shared fears, joys, and forgiveness, waiting just outside their comfort zones. The cold air suddenly carried a warmth, as if signaling the first moments of healing. But then, a haunting question lingered at the edge of the atmosphere. Were they prepared to confront not just each other, but their own complicity in the past? The weight of true emotional exploration now loomed dangerously close, and Emma's resolve hardened. She realized that only by dismantling the fortress of silence, brick by painful brick, could they hope to construct a new reality, anchored in authenticity, no matter how unsettling the process might prove to be. And as she faced them, Emma knew she was no longer just wielding a paintbrush. She was armed with the courage to face the truth that could redefine their family and herself permanently. In the quiet that followed, she began to plan how to guide them deeper into their shared pain. Would they venture forward, fully embracing their history, or retreat once more into the shadows of unspoken words? The silence now felt charged, like a taut string ready to snap. Emma's heart raced as she wrestled with the enormity of their collective decision. This was more than just words. It was an uncharted territory filled with vulnerability. She could sense Mark's and her father's guarded postures, the way they braced for the impact of the emotional conversations they had sidestepped for years. "Let's start with Mom," Emma suggested, a tremor of apprehension weaving through her voice. It was a name that hung heavily in the air, cloaked in unspoken grievances and faded memories. "We can't understand ourselves fully without addressing the absence she left behind and how it shaped our lives." Mark's brow furrowed, revealing the conflict brewing beneath his calm exterior. "You know how painful that is for Dad," he interjected, protecting the man who had walked a difficult path of loss. Emma felt her heart constrict, recognizing the delicate territory they voyaged into. "But if we don't open that door, we'll stay stuck in these patterns that hurt us," she pressed, determined. "We have to acknowledge the truth. How her death fractured our family dynamic. We can't heal if we keep pretending it's not at the core of our struggles." Mark hesitated, torn between his desire to protect and the unyielding push of Emma's resolve. She felt an unexpected surge of strength at her brother's internal conflict. "It might hurt, but avoiding the truth will only deepen the rift," she replied gently, fostering a conversation rather than confrontation. Their father, who sat disheveled in an armchair, finally stirred, his eyes glistening with unspent tears. "I buried myself in work after she died, thinking it would ease the pain for all of us," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "Instead, I neglected to understand how I was isolating you both too." Emma's chest tightened, mirroring the heaviness in his admission. "We all grieved in silence," she acknowledged, casting her gaze toward Mark, her ally in this relentless exploration. "But that silence warped our connection. We have to reclaim our memories of Mom together." "Reclaiming doesn't mean we forget the pain," Mark said softly, staring out the window as if bracing himself against the gathering storm. "It means we find a way to carry her memory with us, without it suffocating us." Emma caught a glimpse of the profound shift within Mark. He was ready for this journey. "Exactly," she responded, her heart pounding with excitement. "Every piece of art I create reflects that struggle. We're artists of our own stories. The memories we paint can either imprison us or set us free." A flicker of understanding sparked between them, a bond rekindled in the crucible of shared suffering. "Let's remember Mom together," Emma urged, her voice unwavering. "Let's speak her name and share our memories. We need to paint our history in full color, not just black and white." For the first time, their shared pain felt like an opportunity, rather than a burden. As they exchanged nods of agreement, Emma sensed the walls within her father begin to crumble. She envisioned their conversations as brushstrokes, each word a hue added to the canvas of their lives, intricate and alive, full of depth and movement. Suddenly a realization washed over her. They were starting to lay the groundwork for a new narrative, one that wouldn't shy away from grief but embrace it as part of their foundation. She found herself better understanding her place in this family, not just as a daughter or a sibling, but as a vital contributor to the healing that lay ahead. But just as hope bloomed within her heart, a shadow loomed. Would they truly move forward together? Or would unaddressed grievances rise to consume their fragile rebuilding? Emma felt a chill run down her spine, a premonition that the hardest conversations were yet to come, as beneath the surface, deeper truths and older wounds still waited to be confronted. Without losing the momentum of their breakthrough, she quickly moved to steer the conversation. What about the times we all enjoyed together? The past holds beauty too, right? Let's remember those moments beyond the darkness. The air thickened with anticipation. Emma sensed something monumental was about to unfold, and she braced herself for their inevitable revelations. The journey was just beginning, and the path to healing stretched before them, unpredictable and raw. But would they find strength in these memories, or reveal fissures too deep to traverse? Emma steeled herself for the powerful conversations ahead, knowing they might uncover truths that forever altered the tapestry of their lives. The memories flooded in, sparkling yet bittersweet, each one overflowing with the laughter that used to echo through their home. Emma sought to cultivate a safe space, a garden of openness where her family could plant their words and feelings. She faced her father and Mark, determined to let those memories bloom free of judgment. "Let's remember the Christmases," she suggested, gauging their reactions. "You both remember the way Mom decorated the tree, right? The colors she loved? How she sang while putting up the ornaments?" Her father's expression softened, the distant look melting away as he recalled those moments, his voice trembling. "She always insisted on fresh pine. It was her favorite smell." He exhaled, as if the air itself was a bridge back to those cherished times. Mark nodded slowly, uncertainty melting into nostalgia. "And the cookies. How Mom would let us sneak dough before it even baked," he added. It felt like freedom. The warmth of their shared recollections filled the room, combating the chill of unspoken grief. Emma felt the air shift, each story they recounted acting as a balm for their fractured bonds. With every memory, her confidence grew. She was leading them through this emotional labyrinth, armed with the light of their collective past. However, the heaviness of silence still lingered. "It's important," Emma insisted, her heart racing, "that we don't get lost in just the beautiful moments. I think part of remembering Mom means also facing the pain we buried. She wouldn't want us stuck in some perfect portrait, would she?" Her father's eyes darted to the floor, shame etching itself on his features. "I allowed my grief to silence you. I was so wrapped up in my own pain that I failed to see yours," he confessed, his voice breaking. It was easier to keep things at a distance. Emma felt a surge of compassion mixed with frustration. They were on the brink of uncovering the deeper truths, but fragility hung in the air. "Dad," she urged gently, "your pain had its own voice, but so did ours. It's time we share them with each other." Keeping quiet only deepened the loneliness. Mark shifted in his seat, anger simmering just beneath the surface. "You're not the only one who grieved here. I did my best to protect us all, and maybe I failed too," he challenged, voice rising. "But I thought taking care of others meant holding everything inside." Emma recognized a pivotal moment. This was not just a conversation about their mother anymore. It was about acknowledging the emotional burdens they had all carried alone, each view interlacing like the threads of an intricate tapestry. She took a breath, steadied by a newfound resolve. They needed to confront this tangled web to embrace the healing awaiting them. "Mark, I understand your desire to support us both," Emma said softly. "But the truth is that we're not just pawns in your game of protection. We all felt the weight of that silence and tried to navigate it on our own. It's not about blaming anyone, but understanding how we can move forward." For a heartbeat, everything went still. Emma's heart pounded in her chest as she wrestled with the gravity of vulnerability, the courage it took to strip back the layers and lay bare the wounds. But silence before confession was familiar, a threshold they needed to cross to reach deeper understanding. "Let's share every side of ourselves, our joy, our anger, our grief," she urged. "We can't rewrite the past, but we can learn from it. Together we can face the shadows of what we've lost." Their exchange felt charged, a potent mix of tension and possibility. Emma could feel the subtle shifts within each family member. They were on the precipice of confrontation and clarity. The air crackled, tangible revelations teetering on the edge of their lips. Bids for understanding yearned to be spoken amid the silence they had endured. Yet there was still the question that loomed. Once they opened this Pandora's box of emotions, could they withstand the tumult that might follow? Emma sensed their fragile unity starting to unearth deeper fissures, darker truth still waiting to be confronted. "Are we ready?" she asked, feeling the enormity of their collective undertaking. They had embarked on this journey towards healing, but the destination remained shrouded in uncertainty. Mark and their father exchanged glances, their expressions flickering with uncertainty and determination. In that vulnerable space, Emma held her breath, wondering if they had the strength to face whatever lay ahead. Would they find the courage to heal themselves, or would the revelations unravel the very fabric of their relationship? They were at the edge, poised to leap into the unknown, and she could feel the weight of change pressing down on all of them, practically begging to be acknowledged. Emma stole a glance at the door, wondering if just beyond it lay real answers they had long since avoided. The tension in the room felt palpable, like static electricity before a storm. Emma's heart raced as she considered the words that loomed unspoken between her and her family. They stood on the brink of a transformation that could change everything, yet uncertainty gripped her. The significance of this moment surged through her veins. They could either succumb to their fears or harness this wave of honesty and unearth healing. "Let's just start from the beginning," Emma suggested, her voice steadying as she navigated this unfamiliar terrain. "Can we talk about Mom and how we each processed her loss? It's okay if it feels messy or uncomfortable. We're not here to judge, only to understand." Her father's gaze met hers, a flicker of something resembling hope igniting behind the pain in his eyes. "I think I made the loss about myself. I wrapped myself in it." His confession felt like a small fracture releasing a flood of turbulent emotions. "I didn't even consider what you and Mark might have been going through." Mark shifted in his seat, arms crossing over his chest defensively. "You think you're the only one with scars?" Emma took in a steadying breath. "No, Mark. I think we all carry them. But each wound is different. What if we shared what it meant to us?" There was a moment of stillness. She could almost see the gears turning in their minds, wrestling with the impulse to retreat versus the need to confront. Emma realized that her role was not merely to guide the conversation. It was also to expose her own vulnerabilities, thereby setting the stage for honesty. If she truly wanted them all to reveal their inner turmoil, she needed to lead by example. "I struggled too," she admitted, her voice gaining strength. "After Mom passed, I felt like I was floating, unanchored, like all the things we shared were suddenly just memories I couldn't touch. I wanted to talk about it, to ask you both how you felt, but I didn't know how." As she spoke, She noticed the small shifts in her father's demeanor, a softening of the hardened edges. He was beginning to see the reflection of his own struggles mirrored in Emma's words. I was so afraid to bring it up. I thought if I said something, it would make it all more real, more painful. His voice trembled as he recalled the moments of denial. Emma turned to Mark, hopeful that this would prompt him to open up. And you, Mark? What kept you silent? An angry retort was ready on Mark's lips, but he paused, and an unexpected vulnerability washed over his features. It's just... I thought the less I acknowledged it, the less I'd feel it. He admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought I was being strong for you both. Instead, I just bottled it up. A pang of sympathy cut through Emma. They were veiled from each other, each hid behind personal shields, paralyzed by the very pain they sought to avoid. But now, a collective awakening began to ripple. The admitting of failure was the first step toward healing, but it also bore the weight of unfinished conversations and lingering resentments. Maybe vulnerability is our strongest form of strength, Emma suggested, emboldened by their newfound honesty. What if we compile all of our memories, the good, the bad, and see them as a mosaic, not a monolith? In that moment, a subtle reconnection took shape. Mark cracked a faint smile, his defenses lowering. A mosaic. I could get behind that, he admitted, and for the first time, the corners of her father's lips lifted in agreement too. The atmosphere lightened, but Emma remained acutely aware of the rawness that still lay beneath. The threshold had been crossed, but deep waters awaited exploration. Their challenge grew evident. They must navigate this internal landscape together, unearthing truth that could either fracture or fortify their bond. But as she glanced again at the door, uncertainty loomed. What awaited outside that threshold could either bring unparalleled enlightenment or immeasurable chaos. With the air charged with unexpressed fears, Emma knew they were just beginning to untangle their collective past. What revelations lurked around their next corner, ready to be brought into the light? Emma Hawkins stood in the clearing, her heart steady, yet her mind raced. After weeks of grappling with her pain and the absence of connection, this moment with her family was bursting with possibilities. Together they had begun to peel back the layers of grief, revealing not only loss but also the warmth of shared laughter and poignant memories. Mark took a breath, appearing calmer than he had moments before. What if we share the pain too? He suggested, his eyes glistening with fresh understanding. What if we open up about our regrets, our fears of not being enough? There's no perfection in what we've endured, but there is truth. Her father nodded, visibly shaken yet willing to join them in this raw exploration of their histories. I fear I failed as a father, and in my guilt, I buried you both deeper into silence. His words struck a chord within Emma. He was starting to see, to recognize that pain had not just been a solitary affair, but had rippled through their lives collectively. I want to share my art with you. Emma started, emboldened by their openness. Not just the paintings, but the process behind them. The struggles involved, the mornings spent wrestling with self-doubt, and the nights spent longing for an audience that understood. I've painted my heart out, and now I want you to see it, to experience my journey through every piece. Mark's expression shifted, an eagerness reigniting in his eyes. Then let's do it together, he proposed. From now on we'll carve out moments to share and talk, no matter how difficult. A monthly art night, perhaps? An evening where we paint and express without the fear of judgment. A chance to rebuild those threads of connection. That idea lit up the chilly air around them, sparking something tangible that Emma could almost touch. Here was the opportunity to create an avenue for healing, a stronghold amidst the wreckage of past emotional turbulence. And let's embrace the memories of Mom while we're at it, Emma added. Each painting can remind us of joy and grief intertwined, the laughter and the tears. They all exchanged nods, the idea taking root. Emma could see determination glinting in her father's eyes, and a spark of hope ignited in her brother. They were no longer just 3 fractured lives. They were a triad of shared experiences, ready to reclaim their family story. The sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting an ethereal glow across the white expanse. Emma turned to her easel, contemplating the rich tapestry of emotions she had poured into her artwork. An array of colors and forms representing either the suffocating silence or the joy of creation. "Can you see this one?" She motioned, pointing to a vibrant piece that spilled forth hues of red, blue, and gold. "It's called Emerging. It embodies the struggle of breaking through barriers, like I did to initiate this conversation." Mark stepped closer, and his breath caught. "I feel the effort in this," he murmured, tilting his head to take in every nuance. Emma felt buoyed by this newfound appreciation. "What would you paint, Dad?" Emma prompted, ready to pull her father into the conversation. "What colors might represent your journey toward understanding us?" "I'm not sure yet," he replied cautiously, his face contemplative. "But I think it would be something dark. An inky blue, perhaps, reflecting the depth of regret. And then I would layer in lighter colors, symbolizing the hope that's still here, that we can learn from what we've lost." With each conversation, their family began to redefine itself. No longer burdened by the weight of unspoken words and hidden regrets, they were now sculpting the beginnings of something new. Their vulnerability became a collective strength, binding them together like vitally important threads. As she glanced behind her to where her siblings stood, Emma felt a rush of gratitude wash over. They were poised to reclaim their narrative, an invitation for each member of the family to rediscover bits of themselves they thought remained hidden forever. With decisive strides, Emma led them back toward the cabin, a vision forming. "Let's draw our plans for the art nights," she suggested, her excitement bubbling. "Let's brainstorm how we'll engage in this healing process, the literature we'll share, the memories we'll recall, and we'll dedicate our first official night to Mom." Fires lit in their hearts as they exchanged possibilities, a cascade of constructive ideas flowing between them. Emma felt exhilarated, a sense of freedom overtaking her. The path ahead was ceremonial, yet filled with intricate colors and complex stories. Her artistic rebirth mirrored within her family. In that moment, amid the blanket of snowflakes drifting softly around them, Emma understood her journey was not solely about art, but also about kinship and self-acceptance. She had accomplished something profound. She had carved an emotional space for herself and her family. This wasn't merely a step in the right direction. It was a profound leap of love and healing that had been years in the making. Standing in the softly falling snow, surrounded by her family, Emma knew she had proven that connection was possible, even after enduring the most painful losses. This was the fresh beginning she desired, not just for herself, but for all of them. Now more than ever, Emma Hawkins felt solid confidence in her identity as an artist, a daughter, and a sister. She had conquered the shadows of doubt that once gripped her spirit. She had recognized, accepted, and expressed her pain in ways that transformed isolation into vibrant connection. As dawn broke the horizon, illuminating the landscape in gold, Emma took a breath. A deep satisfaction resonated in her heart as she recognized her distinct achievement. She had not only embraced her own journey, but invited her family to embark on a shared one that promised genuine love and enduring connection. This was her moment of triumph. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is what keeps these journeys alive. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending below, and let's discuss. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.